We welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. Well, suddenly this place got real full real fast. I was hoping that was the Weird Al version, which is much better. Eat It is much better than Beat It, let's be honest. So the place just got real full real fast. So not only do we have our special guest that we have been teasing you with the entire day, Daniel Vaughn, BBQ editor for Texas Monthly, but he drug one of our favorite pitmaster in here with him. Stephen Joseph from Riverport in Jefferson came along for the ride. And the official welcoming committee of Shreveport-Bossier's Tourism Bureau, Christopher J., is here with us, a former guest. All of these are now going to be former guests on the Patrick Netherton Show. It's got a heck of a lot going on here. Daniel, what's up, man? How are you?
Well, Stephen Joseph here, he needed a ride, needed to play hooky, get out of the barbecue joint for a little bit.
Let me tell you something. You getting him out of that place is an upset. I've tried multiple times to I'm like, hey, I invited him over. I have a Super Bowl party every year, and I'm not a good cook. I cook a few things, and they're okay. And so I cook my few things, and I have some friends that come and cook and do really good stuff. Like we had beef tongue the last time. Yeah, my buddy cooks. I don't cook beef tongue. My buddy does. And we didn't tell anyone what it was till after they ate it. But I'm like, Steven, come on, bring the family. Come on over for the Super Bowl party. It's only 45 minutes from Jefferson. Let me feed you for once because you feed me every time I show up. Nope, can't get him out of it. Can't get him out of Jefferson.
Well, were you serving barbecue?
No, God, no.
Okay, all right.
I wouldn't serve barbecue to a guy. If I tried to serve him barbecue, I mean, it'd be like Christopher trying to give me broadcast pointers. Like it just doesn't make any sense, right? It's not his milieu.
Yeah, and certainly the brisket he was putting out today, and I told him this at the table. I'm not just telling you all this because he's sitting next to me right now, but it's really the best they've been doing. I've been coming out to Riverport Barbecue. The first time I met Steven actually was on the empty concrete pad right after the place burnt down to the ground. That was the first time I met him, and I was doing research for my book, and I had big plans to go eat at Riverport Barbecue, and then I think it was actually on my birthday, on the morning of my birthday. Was it January 15th that place went up in flames? Yeah, so long way back from that, though. Yeah, it has been, and he's doing remarkable work. I tell everyone all the time, I'm basically just out here doing unpaid publicity for a lot of these places, but Steven's number one. I tell everyone, when people ask me what's the best barbecue in Shreveport, I say it's in Jefferson, Texas. Well, luckily you have Texas right next door.
Yeah, and that's why we have the advantage, because we can get some good Cajun food. There are a couple good places that serve Cajun food in Shreveport, and then we're 45 minutes from Jefferson, so we can go. And we're an hour from Longview, so we can go to Bodacious, or we can go to Stanley's and Tyler. We've got places nearby that we can get to. Which is good.
No, and that's I've been writing for Texas Monthly now for almost 7 years, and one of the things that I've been glad to see change so much is just how good the barbecue has gotten in East Texas.
Yeah,
Stanley's has been good for a long time, but Riverport Barbecue, they've been doing it for 26 years now, and like I said, it's been as good as it's ever been. Bodacious is the same,
Yeah.
Let's face it, the Bodacious chain 10 years ago was not destination worthy.
No.
But nowadays, with a couple of the locations they've got, it's really some of the best in Texas.
We have one actually in Bossier, and it's not. I tell everyone all the time, Shreveport barbecue is not great. There's a couple of places that are trying it, and they're doing okay. But Texas barbecue is vastly superior, especially when you go to a place like Riverport. Talking to Daniel Vaughn, the BBQ editor of Texas Monthly magazine. All right, so. We were discussing earlier in the show, if I were to just knock you off right here, would I be able to take over your job? Is that how this works? Like, could I escape a murder charge and just become the barbecue editor of Texas Monthly magazine? Is this like old school jousting or something?
I don't know if it would get you the job,
right,
but it's the only way you're going to have a chance to get the job.
I love it. All right, how do you do that? Like, how do you become the barbecue editor of Texas Monthly magazine? How does this work?
You go to architecture school at Tulane, and then you get born in Ohio, went to school at Tulane, and that's sort of just the natural way to do it. Became an architect in Dallas, did that for 12 years. But no, as soon as I moved to Texas, really, like, one of the first meals I had in Dallas was barbecue. It was at Peggy Sue Barbecue, and I just remember being so awestruck by what, smoked brisket. I'd had lots of corned beef brisket back in Ohio and had plenty of ribs cooked in the oven and finished on a hot gas grill. You burn the sauce on there, and that's good old barbecue, right? And then I had a smoked rib, and I was just so enamored with the what this process was, this whole smoking process, and really just started eating around the state, really eating around Dallas at first.
Yeah.
And I was reading these articles about all this great barbecue down in Central Texas, and a lot of people talking smack about just how much better it was than anything we could get in Dallas. And so I finally put together a road trip with a friend of mine, Sam, and we went down to Central Texas and used Texas Monthly as our guide long before I was employed by the magazine. And, we went to all the big names, the Kreitz Market in Lockhart and Smitty's down there and City Market in Luling. But really, it was Saturday morning at Louis Miller Barbecue.
Yeah.
Sitting there, didn't really even know anything about the place other than that it was way up there in the top 50. It was in the top 5 at that time.
Yeah.
And I got a slice of brisket and sausage and sat there first thing in the morning eating that for breakfast and thinking, all right, this barbecue thing can get this good. Like, it can get so much better than I could ever imagine.
Right.
And that just really drove me to really want to explore the state and eat as much as I could and try as many new places as I could, and really go back to Dallas and Fort Worth and naively think that if I just looked hard enough and went and ate at every barbecue joint there, that I would be able to find something that matched that quality in Central Texas. That didn't happen.
Right.
But it certainly got me out there experiencing all this stuff, and the whole time I was blogging about all of it as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the great part about the information age that we're in right now is you can have your voice heard, even if you're not at Texas Monthly Magazine. You and I both follow enough guys on Instagram and on Twitter that are out there doing their own little barbecue adventures and have, tens of thousands of followers. It's awesome because you can do it that way. So then how did that love translate into getting onto Texas Monthly and writing for them?
Well, it really came to be when they wanted to put together a barbecue finder app, and when they did that, they came to me to help sort of populate it with information. They wanted to use my blog posts, along with their latest top 50, which at the time was the 2008 version, and they were gearing up to put together the 2013 list. And so when we came to that agreement, part of the contract agreement was that I was going to be part of the tasting team for that 2013 list.
You're no dummy.
Yeah, I put that in there. Funny thing is, like a year earlier, I had met with Pat Sharp, who's our food editor, was then and still is, and I asked her if I could get a spot on that list, and I showed her some of my writing and all this. She's like, "This is really great. I really love what you're doing. We don't do freelancers for the top 50. It just doesn't happen."
Right.
And so then when I was able to finagle that into the contract, little did I know, I was just like, they saw, like some of the other folks at the magazine were like, great, we have another mouth.
Right.
We have another stomach who's going to go out there, travel a bunch of miles, and help do some of this really dirty work out there.
You're just a content farm at that point.
Yes, yeah, back then. So it was funny though, because when that list came out, the 2013 list. So I was announced as barbecue editor like a month. I started my job as barbecue editor a month before that.
Yeah,
and so obviously I was not in a position to be like the final say in any of this stuff. That was Pat Sharp at the time. But you better believe that I was announced as barbecue editor, and a month later when the top 50 came out, it was all my fault.
Yeah, you got all the brunt of the punishment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If there was a place that was missed, it was my fault. If there was a place that wasn't any good, it was my fault. If there was a place people thought was overrated, it was all me. So it was a little easier getting into the 2017 list, which is our latest one out there, knowing that I had a little bit more control, a little bit more say in just exactly which places were chosen.
I'm just doing a little on-air production. This is our big boss man, Greg Adams. Stephen Joseph from Riverport. He brought his way. Christopher. This is Daniel Vaughn. And we have a little gift bag that Stephen brought us from Riverport. So I'm gonna give that to you.
It's just coleslaw.
It is. If it is just coleslaw, I will throw your ass out on the street right now. I'm gonna have to come back. Okay, come back for this, but it's there. Just know. Yeah, you only got till 5 o'clock, so you better hustle. You better hustle. That's all I'm saying. Oh, I don't know. We'll let him figure it out. Well, yeah, go ahead. Go have at it. I'll let you run off and tell him. We're doing on-air production while we. That's the kind of show we run around here. It's a tight ship. In case you hadn't noticed, Daniel Vaughn, the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine, joining us. Okay, so you get on. You're the barbecue editor now. How did that alter what you were doing in your life as this became went from a hobby to a job?
Well, I mean, certainly some positives and negatives. The negatives, of course, I went from being an associate in an architecture firm to being a freelance writer.
Right. Not a lot of money in that,
yeah.
Typically.
So, Jennifer, I love you, my wife, who has had a much better job than I have, or is a much better paying job than I have had.
Right.
And really,
so what you're saying is you're the trophy husband.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're the trophy husband.
Yeah,
okay.
She's my sugar mama.
Right. Yeah, that works.
I actually just recently got hired on at Texas Monthly.
Really?
I'm an employee now.
Okay.
Which wasn't the case for like the first 6 years.
Wow.
I was doing it all on contract, and so she was really carrying the family as far as like healthcare, all that good stuff. None of that was coming from me anymore.
And why would someone need healthcare when they're just eating barbecue for every meal 7 times a day?
But then the other thing that really helped out the whole family situation, I got 2 kids as well, and when it was nights and weekends and a hobby, my family sort of had to be a part of all that if I wanted to have family time.
Sure.
So barbecue road trips are fun in the beginning for a while.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, every family road trip turns into having a few barbecue stops, and then every family road trip becomes a barbecue road trip. And then so once I took the job and it became my full-time job, and I was doing this like Monday through Friday, my wife was like, you know what, this isn't so bad. Like, I don't have to be involved in any of this stuff anymore. She doesn't like barbecue, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Doesn't
Wow.
like barbecue. She'll eat some smoked turkey. I took her to Franklin Barbecue.
Sure, in Austin.
Yeah.
Which Aaron Franklin's kind of considered the godfather of the modern barbecue movement in Texas.
Yes. Or the world.
Yeah,
depending on who you ask.
That's fine. I mean, he is one. I mean, look, Steve Martin gives a master class on fiddling, and Aaron Franklin gives a master class on cooking brisket. So,
and then Serena Williams on tennis.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So if you just want to know what class Aaron Franklin's rolling
Aaron
in right
Franklin
now,
is the Serena Williams of barbecue.
I'll let you tell him that.
That's actually, I think I have.
A mean backhand.
When I first looked at his master class and watched it, I interviewed him for that and asked him what it felt like to be the Serena Williams of barbecue.
Yeah, so you took her to Franklin's.
Took her to Franklin Barbecue. Of course, the order there is brisket. Like, that's what the guy's famous for. And she's like, nah, I think I want a slice of turkey. Just get a slice of turkey. Now, the turkey at Franklin Barbecue is really, really good. But yeah, so she had some turkey. But hey, as she says, like, nobody wasted any of that good brisket on me. Yeah. Hey, you're right. She's unselfish in that way.
So you now travel around. You're even when you're not in Texas, you're eating barbecue. It seems like I've seen you all over the world now eating barbecue. It's
so easy to find now.
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
Wherever I travel, I can find it.
Do you? Let's say you're planning a trip, and I know you took a trip with I believe your son at one point, right? That went up to Canada. Is that right?
Yeah, we took a Great Lakes tour.
Yeah.
Went all around the Great Lakes, Minneapolis to Toronto and back.
So when you plan something like that, and it's ostensibly a vacation for you and your family, how much of, okay, I need barbecue content is there versus, okay, I just need family time and vacation with my family?
Yeah, it's a little of both. Like I take a lot of road trips with my kids as well. Because of my job, like every day is sort of a day off. Like there's no office that I need to be in. I can work from anywhere. And so much of my work is research, and that's totally the fun part. Like driving around to different barbecue joints. So it's easy for me to take them while my wife's still got to be at the office. So like, Thanksgiving, they had the whole week off. We drove up to Amarillo. We ate a lot of barbecue. Yeah. But we also went like Caprock Canyon State Park and went to see Paladuro Canyon. So the destination there, Amarillo, was chosen because of barbecue. There were some barbecue joints that I needed to go try there. But it's, with so much to see in Texas, it's easy to turn that into turn that into a little family vacation. The whole road trip around the Great Lakes, that was really because my son and I had some time to kill. We dropped my daughter off at camp. We had 2 weeks to go take a drive. We had to be back to pick her up back at camp in Minnesota, and then drive back home. And so I thought of it as, a real challenge. Like, what sort of barbecue culture can I uncover, write about, explore? What sort of new barbecue can I find that's popped up in areas of the country that I think if you ask the average Texan, what am I going to find in Minnesota and Ohio and Pennsylvania? Yeah. They're just going to say nothing. Jeez. There's nothing to be had. And I go to Toronto and I find like 3 really good Texas barbecue joints. Yeah. Like straight up Texas barbecue. And then being able to talk to them about the challenges, like one of the reasons that they can't just have smokers outside, it isn't because like the city doesn't allow it. Right. It's because they can't get a fire hot enough in the dead of winter.
Yeah, it makes sense.
To actually keep the smoker hot enough to cook barbecue.
When it's negative 14 degrees outside, it's got to be pretty tough.
Yeah, so it's fun to go to different areas like that and understand the different challenges. I mean, it's challenging to cook good barbecue anywhere. Yeah. So it's always fun to see just how challenging it is depending on your climate, your region.
Hey, Stephen, how long would it take a brisket to cook if you're cooking it at about 41 degrees for the entire? That's going to be about a week-long experience right there. We're talking to Daniel Vaughn, the barbecue editor of Texas Monthly Magazine. Stephen Joseph's also hanging out with us from Riverport Barbecue. Christopher J. from the Shreveport-Bossier Tourist Bureau. Again, I probably mispronounced that because I can't remember if it's tourism or tourist bureau. Yeah, he doesn't care, but I do. I'm a grammar nerd. But we're chatting all things barbecue. Taking your texts if you like. If you have questions for Daniel, please feel free to text us 318-657. You'll like my text line 0ham. 318-657-0ham. 318-657-0426. Also known as the worst nightmare of anyone. Zero
to
ham.
Have zero ham.
Yeah, it is my worst nightmare, which is why I remember it so easily.
You don't want to wish that on anyone.
No. Nobody would. 318-657-0426. Or you can send us a note on Facebook as well. If you want to send in questions for Daniel, we certainly would do that. We're pleased to have you with us. We've got a full house here in the studio today. A very real treat. We've got the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine, Daniel Vaughn. We've got Stephen Joseph from Joseph's Riverport Barbecue in Jefferson. We got Christopher J. from the Shreveport-Bossier Tourism Bureau. Who actually brought barbecue to Daniel, which
That's right.
I guess that, I don't know, what is that like? Is that like bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh to baby Jesus? Like, I'm not sure how that works exactly, but you know what? I tell everyone, Shreveport's not a tremendous barbecue town. It just isn't. We got a couple of little local places that are okay. The stuff that you just had is from Real Barbecue, a guy named Harvey Clay, who is, I think, doing the best work of anyone in town. He's actually doing it the right way. He's a Texas native. He's got the pit out in the back. He's doing everything. But I'm curious, when you go to, let's say, a Shreveport or a place that doesn't have a good barbecue history, kind of like Minnesota, how do you go about sort of judging what they're doing in respect of, okay, they don't have the same history that the Texas barbecue folks have? It's going to be a different style. It's going to be a different flavor sometimes. How do you make sure that you're not overly critical of places that may not, for lack of a better term, know any better?
Yeah, well, good food is good food. Mm-hmm. And so, even if it's not to my personal taste, or even if it's not the way a Texas pitmaster would do it, if it tastes good, then it's good. Yeah. And so it might sound really simple, might sound overly simplistic, really, but, I would much rather have, he's got his own brisket sausage here. Just had a bite of that. I would much rather have that sausage that doesn't taste much like the sausage I would find certainly in Central Texas, right? Than I would somebody's like, we're doing brisket with oak wood, with post oak wood and an offset smoker, but it's not very good. Yeah. Like, I find it's much more value.
It's a poor facsimile of the original.
Right. So I find much more value in that thing that makes a place unique. Now, when I go to a different city, or especially any city that's known for barbecue, first I need to understand what are the more popular places, mm-hmm. and go eat at those, even if they're not the best. Right. Because those are the places that people really value. if they're the most popular, it's also going to be what a lot of other people are judging their barbecue against.
Sure.
And customers and pitmasters alike too. So it's good to have that as sort of a foundation, a starting place, and then be able to go out from there and try several different places and try to get an understanding. Is there a not so much a definitive barbecue style in that area, but is there something that everybody kind of does similar? Like, it was strange to be in Washington, D.C. and eat barbecue everywhere, and it's like, I don't know, what brings all these places together? Well, Brussels sprouts. Like, every barbecue joint there had Brussels sprouts on the menu. And I have no idea if that has anything to do with the tastes of people in Washington, D.C., or if simply like, hey, I had good Brussels sprouts at that barbecue joint, I'm going to go try it at mine.
Well, considering how I feel about Brussels sprouts tells me all I need to know about Washington, D.C., as if I didn't already know that. Poor taste in Washington, D.C., there's no doubt about it. Again, I'm anti-Brussels sprouts, though, so understand that coming in. Do have a couple of questions for you from the text line wanted to get to. What do you think about barbecue joints that also serve fried catfish and seafood? Do you keep driving, or are some able to pull it off?
All right. Very interesting question. First, because when I started off barbecue blogging, one of the rules I had for the barbecue joints I was not going to visit is any place that advertised seafood, catfish.
Right.
You put a Caesar salad out there on the out there on your window or out there in the advertisements.
Barbecue sauce.
Exactly. So, yeah, maybe if it's a brisket Caesar, I guess. But that was sort of one of my rules, is to just ignore those sort of places. Because I felt like if they weren't focused in solely on barbecue, then they weren't taking it seriously. I've gotten wiser.
Yeah.
I understand that a lot of small-town barbecue joints, they really need to service the whole community. They not only have to make sure that everybody in a family is going to be happy coming to eat there, they also need to be bringing in, they need to be bringing in families to that place 2 or 3 times a week. And maybe people don't want brisket 2 or 3 times a week.
Right.
Some people.
You can't be too niche. You can't be too niche, as it were, in a small town.
Now, one of the things I've actually been looking at traveling around here really recently is I've been going to barbecue joints that have fried catfish and ones that offer it in a way that you can get catfish and barbecue on the same platter, otherwise known as a barbecue surf and turf platter.
There you go.
Now, you can argue with me if catfish is really surf. Whatever. It's seafood and seafood and barbecue.
Pond and I don't know
or river food. And,
right.
Whatever you want to call it.
Pond. We got an old pond and pasture platter right here. It's catfish and barbecue. The pond. There you go. Pond and pasture platter.
That is going to sell so well.
I'm telling you, Stephen, that's your new platter at Riverport, the pond and pasture platter. You thought you liked surf and turf. Wait till you try pond and pasture.
But the thing is, it's really hard to find a place that does really good barbecue and really good fried catfish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly a lot easier to do the fried catfish side.
Well, but they're kind of different skill sets. One is you fry it quickly, and one is you cook it for a long, long, long time.
Yes, and traditionally a small town or a small time barbecue joint isn't going to be able to afford or bother with a fryer and the hood that's required that's going to go with it. So, it's been kind of fun to go out and look at something a little bit different. Now, I mean, the fact is, I write 2, 3, sometimes 4 articles a week.
Yeah.
I got to have new content, right? I got to have new storylines, and so sometimes I have to get a little creative with them. But it's been actually a lot of fun going out and looking at different fried catfish styles and the different ways that they're done, different spice levels, things like that.
No, it's fantastic. Barbecue editor of Texas Monthly Magazine, Daniel Vaughn. If you want to send him a question in the last 10 minutes or so we've got, you can, 318-657-0-HAM. My favorite, 318-657-0426. Question here from a 318 number. How much do you think buying Prime as opposed to Choice or Select makes a difference? Bought a Prime from Creekstone recently, and it was hands down better than the meat around here. I guess put another way, could Franklin make a Select brisket taste really good?
Well, prime brisket makes a big difference, especially when you're cooking a whole lot of them at one time. It's more forgiving. And for any listeners out there who don't understand, you get different grades of beef. Prime being the highest, at least in the USDA system. Prime being the highest, choice below that, and select below that. There's a whole bunch of below that, but you're not going to find those in the grocery store.
We call those dog food.
That's right. So a prime brisket, it's going to have more fat, more marbling.
Sure.
And that doesn't really make much difference in the fatty end of the brisket, but in the lean side, that extra marbling, it gives you a little bit of a cushion as far as your window of doneness.
Right.
And so, you can certainly do a choice brisket that's really great, but a prime brisket it's just going to be that much more foolproof as far as your consistency goes.
Yeah.
From brisket to brisket, especially like I said, if you're doing 40, 50. Terry Black's Barbecue just opened in Dallas. They do 280 briskets on a Saturday. They're using prime brisket.
Yeah.
Now our that latest top 50 I was telling you about from 2017, we ranked the top 10, and in the top 10, 9 of them had prime brisket.
Yeah.
That wasn't anything that I discovered until afterwards. It wasn't like we were ranking places based on the grade of brisket they were getting. The only one who didn't, though, was number 1, and that's Snow's.
Yeah.
And they use Select. Now, they use Select or better, which these days there's so few Select cattle out on the market that they're almost always going to get choice. But one of the things that they do to help themselves along is, and I'm sure Stephen would agree with this, though, the easier brisket to cook is always the smaller one.
Yeah.
And so that's what Snow's does. They start off with smaller briskets because for me, like, I look at cooking barbecue is a battle against moisture loss. You have so much water that's in the brisket. The longer or the quicker you cook it, the more easily that is all released. The longer you cook it, the more moisture you release. So anyway, you got a smaller brisket, less moisture loss. And then the other thing they do to help themselves out at Snow's is to wrap it in foil about 2/3 of the way through. And that aluminum foil really helps hold in the moisture. And so that's sort of how Snow's gets around using that Select or Choice brisket and still making it taste incredible.
Right.
But certainly, if you're an amateur pitmaster, I would be looking for prime. I know Costco and Sam's Club are often, it's easy to find them there. So yeah, I would definitely suggest you go find that not if you're trying your first brisket.
Yeah. Don't do it on the first one, because that's kind of a waste of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have a buddy of mine, the one that cooked beef tongue last year, who is a fabulous cook. He knows what he's doing. His ribs, I'd put him up against any Texas barbecue joint in the that I've ever been to. But he can't quite get brisket. And Steven, I come over and I bring him over to Steven's place, and Steven's already been like, "Look, tell him to come hang out with me." His brisket is good, but he's one of these guys that's kind of egomaniacal about it, and he's like, it's not perfect, so it's not right. And we're kind of at that point where even him, a guy that's done probably 15, 20 briskets, maybe more, even he can't get it quite right. And so it's a difficult battle. A brisket, am I wrong? Toughest meat to cook in probably the entire meat family?
Yeah, I mean, there are some argue that whole hog is harder, but I really just think whole hog takes longer. I mean, I've written a book about Texas barbecue. I've written a book about whole hog barbecue as well. And whole hog barbecue is, it certainly takes a long time to cook. There's a lot of skill involved, especially if you're going to do it like the way Sam Jones does it here on the cover with where you chop the skin into the meat. If the skin itself needs to be edible and part of it, that certainly ups its difficulty level. But in the end, you're left with an entire hog that you're just overcooking all of it. Yeah. That's all you're doing. You're overcooking the hams, the loins, everything, and then you get to chop it all up together and disperse that fat while you're chopping it up.
Well, and what I tell everyone, and Roger's can attest to this, I tell everyone when you go to a barbecue joint, never, always get sliced brisket, because you can chop up brisket and hide if you're not any good at it. I say, always get sliced brisket. B, never put sauce on it to start. That try everything without sauce to begin with, because there is there's very real, if I go into a place and they chop up a brisket and put some sauce in it, well, I have no idea how they cooked it. All I'm tasting is the sauce. I don't know if it was good to start with or not. But I do like to try the sauce, because you want to know if it's complimentary or if that's the case. When you talk to people, and I know people hit you up on Twitter. By the way, at BBQ Snob is his Twitter handle. I know people hit you up on Twitter all the time. What do you recommend for folks that maybe are going to try a barbecue place for the first time? Do you have a set order you recommend? Is there something you say, hey, make sure you do this when you go in?
Well, I mean, it's tough for me to say because I'm looking at something completely different than most customers. I think most customers are going in looking to just experience joy and pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm looking in to judge you.
Yeah.
Like, how well are you doing? So I'm going to order sliced brisket. If you ask one way or the other, I'm going to ask for lean because it's just harder to do lean brisket well. And so I know if that lean slice is great, then certainly you can do fatty brisket well. But, I mean, one of the things I'm always going to look at is something different on the menu, right? So every Texas barbecue joint has brisket, ribs, and sausage.
The Trinity.
Right? So do they specifically call out that they've got homemade sausage? Then, yeah, I definitely want to try that out. Do they have anything different on the menu? Do they have, like, a pork steak? I mean, I love pork steaks. It's basically just a thick slice out of the shoulder.